All right, if you're an offer or an agency and you're thinking of creating a sales team, or maybe you have one that's underperforming, this video will be for you, because I will go through the exact step-by-step process that I would do if I would try to turn things around or build a sales team from the ground and up. Okay, and this won't be just any guesswork. This will be from my own experience, because I've been running sales teams for the past 6 months. So I will share a lot of my lessons and a lot of the mistakes that I made in the beginning that I would do differently now. So the number one thing when turning things around, it's not about sales. It's actually about the offer, changing the offer. The way I see it is that if you're selling something that's shit and you get a good sales team in, you're just gonna get better at selling shit. Okay, and you don't want that. What you want is having a really good offer on the front end, because what I see a lot of offer owners doing wrong is they have too many offers, or they have something that just makes the prospect confused. For example, having a low ticket offer, then a medium sized offer, then a high ticket offer, and then one-on-one offer, and a lot of things. You cannot have that. What you should aim to have is one really strong front end offer that's priced maybe between 5 and 8K. Then on the back end, you should have a downsell, a low ticket offer. You should also have an upsell, a high ticket offer, okay? But you should not have that on the front end. They should only have one good offer. And what also makes a good offer is having a good and strong action-based guarantee. And I see a lot of offer owners not having this. This will, number one, increase the success rate of your members, okay? But number two, that will mean that the churn rate will go down. So that's gonna be the number one thing, to make sure that you have a really good offer. Number two is installing a great team culture. This is going to be the most important thing when it comes to the sales team. Because imagine you're going to build a skyscraper, okay? You're going to build really high. That's the sales team, okay? You're going to scale to 1-2 million a month, okay? But in order for you to build a high skyscraper, you need to have a really, really strong foundation. And that's the culture. But if you don't have that, it's just gonna fall. And what I see too many offer owners do wrong is that they focus on the details. They focus on the frameworks and all of these things. They focus on the details when it comes to a skyscraper, but they don't have a strong foundation. And that's why it falls. That's why you can't build high. Okay? So that's the number one thing that I would do. And how do you actually do that? Make sure that you're very, very clear with what kind of principles you want the sales team to follow. So I would do maybe 8 different principles that improves their mindset and the culture, and then I would reinforce this a lot in the beginning. Every single time that you have an opportunity on every single sales team meeting, I would do it. Then always refer back to it if they have a problem or something like that. Refer back to the principles. I would do this very, very much in the beginning, but this is something that you're gonna have to do actively for a long period of time. So you really build that culture. And if someone's not willing to build that culture or follow that, then he's gonna be a virus, he's gonna be a parasite within the team. So unfortunately, you're gonna have to get rid of them. But give them time, give them maybe 4-6 weeks. If they don't implement everything, then it's off, okay? So that's number one thing when it comes to the sales team. So the third thing in total is making sure that you have stats, you have the KPIs. You would be surprised on how many sales teams that I look at that don't have KPIs, right? They don't have statistics. They just make decisions based on feelings. You can never do that in business. You can never say, well, I feel like we should do this, or I feel like this is too low, without knowing, right? So you have to have KPIs, and this is super simple. You just have the show up rates, the response rates, the closing rate, the offer rate, conversion rate, and so on. That's the base of it. But there's a lot of different areas as well. For example, how quick your sellers are to actually calling the leads, okay? That's something that was eye-opening for me. I thought they were very quick, but then we got the stats on it. So, wow, we had taken way, way, way too long on actually calling the leads, and that improved our response rate a lot. So make sure that from the beginning that you have the KPI, so you actually can see the progress as well. So that's the third thing. The fourth thing here is building the scripts and frameworks. Okay? And in my opinion, I'm not a big believer in scripts or frameworks, because I think that the best sales reps don't need to use that. But in the beginning, it's very important that you have something to follow so that you learn. And then as time goes on, you can leave that script more and more. Because the way I see it is that, let's say a prospect responds to one of your questions. What you then ask and if you follow a script, would the next question on that script be the absolute best question that you can ask based on the prospect response? 99% of the time, you won't. That won't be the best response for you, the best question to ask. So I would have good scripts, good frameworks, but I would let the sales reps do their own thing. Okay? What's important as well is that you have a good pitch, and also you have a good way of handling objections, a good way of reframing the way the prospect thinks. That's going to be super crucial, especially because of the fifth step, because these go kind of hand in hand. I'm going to explain why. So the fifth step is doing the pre and post call processes. Obviously you can automate a lot of these things, but if you do these pre and post call processes really good, then that's what's going to separate a good sales team from a great sales team. Okay, so why is it important that you actually implement the reframes and the good scripts and make sure that the sales reps have the sales process nailed in before you implement the post and pre-call processes? Because with the follow-up processes, you want the prospect to get to 99% of making a decision before you book a follow-up with them. And in order for you to do that, you need to have a nailed-in discovery, nailed-in pitch, and also have a lot of reframes and objection handling. Because the thing is, if you would implement follow-up processes and post-call processes before the sales rep knowing how to reframe and doing a good sales call, they would just see the follow-up processes as an easy way out, okay? As an excuse. We don't want that. But then after they have nailed that process, I would implement the post-call processes. And that is, okay, for short-term follow-ups. For example, if you book a follow-up for the day after, okay, having a nailed process there, but then also a way of nurturing your pipeline. Okay, with the midterm, 8 to 30 days, how do we nurture those? What can we send in order for them to come back to us? For the prospects that, you know, have long-term follow-ups, more than 30 days, how can we nurture those? And making sure that you nail these processes. Because so many sales teams, they just focus on the front end, they just focus on the new leads that come in, the new calls, but then they have thousands of leads in the pipeline. Okay, and that doesn't make sense. So that is the fifth thing that I would do. All right, and the sixth thing that I would do, the last thing, is focusing on the fulfillment side. Okay, obviously the first point was to making sure that you have a good offer on the front end, but then on the back end, I would do that last. Why? Because there's no need on actually focusing on that before you can actually onboard new clients. So when you have a high volume of new clients, I would focus on the fulfillment infrastructure. For example, getting client success managers in, getting really good processes when the prospects or members get in so that they get successful with the program. But I wouldn't focus on this in the beginning. Like I said, it's gonna take time, it's gonna take effort, it's gonna just manage more people. In the beginning, I would probably let the mentor or someone else do it before I focus on really getting and building a team for that. So those are the 6 things, the 6 steps that I would implement to turn things around in an underperforming sales team or just building a sales team from the ground and up. So if you are an offer owner and you thought this was interesting, I actually do free consultations right now, where I just take a look at your offer or agency and just give you some points of direction. I point you in the right direction, right? So if that sounds interesting, I'll do free 30-minute consultation calls. You can just book it down here in my description. And also, if you don't want to book a call, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Thank you.